Before we begin, I want to say that we're going to be giving you basic general instructions that will apply in many, but not all, cases. If you need help with completing anything on a right-of-way cost estimate, please reach out to your colleagues, lead worker, or manager. As you work on your project estimate, I recommend looking at the right-of-way project estimate guide, which you can find on the project delivery page in SharePoint. The project estimate guide is a checklist of items associated with right-of-way acquisition, and it could help you be sure you don't miss anything. As you use the checklist, pay attention to what goes where on the TPC form. Different things listed on the checklist will go on different lines in the estimate. The first line on the TPC form is PID400, land acquisition. Basically, we're going to use similar projects to estimate on a cost per acre or cost per square foot basis. To do this, you need to get familiar with your project and identify a comparable project to use as a reference. If you have a KMZ file from the project engineer, you can open it in Google Earth. This will allow you to see the area we need to acquire. You can use Google Earth to see how much of the parent parcel we'll be acquiring, like a small sliver of a large property or a large portion of a small property. What type of land use they are, like vacant or undeveloped land, or residential or commercial properties, and whether there are any improvements in or near our acquisition. Google Earth will only tell you so much though, so you should also drive the project to verify what you saw on Google Earth and see if there's anything you didn't see on the screen. With a good understanding of your project, you can now look for a comparable past project to use as a reference. Look for projects with similar size, both in acreage and number of parcels. Also look for projects with similar land uses and improvements as your current project. Once you've identified a comparable project, you can look up data from Text.Connect for the cost per acre or price per square foot of buildings and other information. Right-of-Way Survey and Mapping section has created a tool that can be useful in researching your current project. The Text.Cost Estimate application is a GIS tool that draws on county appraisal district data to give you information about your project. It also allows you to upload a shapefile of your project, which you can get from your district surveyor or GIS analyst. And if you don't have a shapefile, you can draw your project onto the map. The app will identify the affected parcels and give you the CAD values for those parcels, and it will even give you a prorated value based on the size of our acquisition. Here's how it works. Here we are in the Text.Cost Estimate application. This tool takes a polygon of a proposed acquisition and overlays it onto polygons of property lines and pulls appraisal district data for the affected properties. To get started, we need to create our proposed acquisition. There are two ways to do this. The first way is to load a shapefile of the proposed acquisition. On the Home tab, click Upload Acquisition. Then click the down arrow. This gives information about how the shapefile should be set up, but don't worry, you don't need to do this on your own. You should get the shapefile of your project from your district surveyor or GIS analyst. You want to scroll down and click Add Zip File. Then navigate to where you save the shapefile. Select it and click Open. Then click Submit. You might need to zoom in to the project. If you don't have a shapefile of your project, you can do the second option, which is to draw it yourself. To do this, you need to look at the right-of-way map or project schematic to know what the acquisition area looks like. From the Home tab, click Draw Acquisition. On the map, zoom into the area of your project. Since I just loaded the shapefile for a project, I'm going to draw another proposed project next to it. On the Estimate Form tab, click the down arrow and click Draw Acquisition. Click once on the map to start the shape, then click it again and again to add vertices. I'm drawing a simple rectangle, but you can click as many times as you need to create the shape of your proposed acquisition. When you've made your shape, double-click to finish it, and the app will draw the last line to connect to the point where you started. Then on the left, click Submit. The first time you use the shape, whether you uploaded it or drew it, The app will give it an ID number. Here, ACQ-ID-55. This ID is only used in this app, so you don't need it anywhere else. In the app, this shape is called a proposed acquisition. If you click on the blue proposed acquisition shape, a results tab will open on the left. The tab will show CAD data for all of the whole properties that touch this shape. You will see land value, improved value, and market value for 2019, 2022, and 2023. Be aware that some data might not be there if the data wasn't provided by the CAD. Notice that the partial values are blank. That will come in a minute. For doing a total project cost estimate, you want to see the values of the parts within the proposed acquisition. You can see this by clicking on one of these buttons at the top of the Results tab. They will give data for 1 year, so select a year that does have data for the whole values. This new panel will open above the map, and on the map, the whole properties will be highlighted. And the parts within the proposed action will be given an ID number, ACQ-ID- in our case, 55, and then some more digits. Those digits are the CAD's property ID number. The panel at the top has a line for each parcel and gives the info the CAD has for each one. If we close this panel by clicking the X in the upper right, and then click on the shape again, we'll see that the partial value section of the Results tab is now populated. These numbers are calculated for the acquisition as a percentage of the area of the whole property. For instance, if we will be acquiring 10% of the area of the whole property, the partial value will be calculated as 10% of the value of the whole property. The Results tab is showing the total of all the parcels that we'll be acquiring. If we want to see information on an individual parcel, we can click it on the map. It will be highlighted yellow, and the data for that parcel will be shown in the Results tab. You can see the area of the acquisition in square feet, what percentage of the whole it is, and the calculated value of the parcel. If you want to see the information for the parent parcel, you can click on it outside the acquisition area. If we want to export the data for this proposed acquisition, we can do that. Go to the Home tab, select Identify, and draw a box around our proposed acquisition. A panel will open above the map with several tabs. The Proposed Acquisition tab shows the whole parcel values and partial values for the project as a whole. The Partial Acquisition tab gives information about each parcel we will be acquiring. The other two tabs give information about each parent parcel on this project. To export this data, click the three-dot menu in the upper right and select Export to Excel. Name the file and tell it where to save it, and click Save. You'll get a zip file that has a spreadsheet for each of these tabs. You can use this data when you're calculating the land acquisition costs on your total project cost estimate. Keep in mind that the cost estimate application uses historic CAD data about the properties on your project, and like Google Maps, it may not reflect what is actually on the property currently. So it's still important to drive your project to see it for yourself, in case something has changed since the CAD appraised the property. Still, the cost estimate application is a useful tool to gather information about your project. Because a project is likely to have several types of parcels, vacant or developed, residential or commercial, you probably can't do a one-size-fits-all calculation for the land acquisition costs. You may have to do several different calculations before totaling up the acquisition costs on your project. You might find it useful to make a spreadsheet of the parcels on your project to help you do the estimate for the different parcels you have. Lots of right-of-way project coordinators and project managers have created spreadsheets for this purpose. Check with your colleagues to see if they have one that would work well for you.